Yeah, I want to tell you a bit more about our journey and how we reached the point of the vehicles where we're at, but also about our programs that we run in South Africa with a very specific human-centric design and a business plan of how we roll out. Starting with the idea of doing cargo bikes in South Africa, it's actually chaos. It's not something that's established in South Africa. It is the use cases are very different in that you don't have necessarily the budget. How people use it is different. It's something new that needs to start. So the question is, how do we approach it? How do we, from seemingly quite chaos and having a very difficult problem in that logistics in generally is not designed for the township, in our case we call it a township informal environment. So how do we tackle that problem? And the approach that we followed to tackle the problem of 11.8 million residents that has limited delivery services to them. There's lack of infrastructure. Vehicle costs of traditional vehicles, you can't just put the electric vehicle into the space, it's just too expensive. Driver's licenses. People don't have driver's licenses. And then probably the biggest challenge that we face is that 62% of our youth in South Africa is unemployed. So that is a massive problem. So how do we design? How do we bring an electric vehicle into that space? And we follow the thinking of chaos theory. So chaos theory, in essence, just say it's not just one step that needs to follow on the other in a logical sequence. You need to actually look at, is there hidden systems, self-organization, adoption for alternative ways of doing things? What's that subsystems or the hidden systems that sits in this chaos that we can identify? And then also seemingly unrelated parts. Can we connect unrelated parts to form a functioning system? Now, you need a culture to do that. Your organizational culture needs to be able to do that and think in that way. So what is the culture that you need? You need leaders that won't ask you to do anything that they won't do themselves. You need to invest in people, courage, creativity, skills, and integrity. That's quite a common one. You must know that no plan that you make will survive first contact with the problem. And you must be willing to say, you throw spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks. Lots of things won't stick. Certain things will stick. And that is by spending time with real people and real environments. Identify the deal breakers first. I think sometimes with engineers who like to optimize things that should not exist. So don't be married to any idea. You must be willing to adapt and change quickly. And early stage design is like model clay. You must be able to shape it very quickly. Be very brave and continue to clarify the vision that you want to, so that others can see it as well. But you're basically part of that process. You are starting to see clearer as you go along. And then prototype quick and make changes even quicker. And there's one rule, and that is that we have no rule in our company apart from you do your best and try to explain why you did something. You can't do something wrong. You can just try your best. From the outside, it looked like this. And the image that emerged for us as a team is this. So it is bringing all of that different elements and test probes that we've put in to come to a point where we can clearly show a certain approach and vision. And the other thing that's important for us is combinations. And these vehicles is what we are going to use in South Africa. And it's the same vehicles that we are going to use in Europe. And what came out of this is that we can do it quality repetitively, cost effectively, and it's super efficient. Because these vehicles are very light, but also very durable. So it's almost like a win-win. So how do we just got news that we have approval to roll out 350 vehicles next year. So we're starting with 350 vehicles in our communities at the beginning of the year. And how do we bring our vehicles to our community? So the one thing is to clarify the vision around the product. But how do you clarify a vision of how you roll out in communities that is essentially resource poor? And how we do it is we say that hyper last mile is the key. In an area of about roughly 3 kilometers by 2 kilometers, there's 60,000 people. That's about the density of the communities. And we identified that as a node for about 10 to 15 bikes to serve that community. And in that node, it is very short, sometimes a bit heavy, that's why the trailer is so important, but distribution of goods, distribution of tasks, doing things, going to shop for, say, a small creche, what do you call the home care, all of these communities has a life of their own, and there's very many use cases or services that comes out from the communities. And we are learning as we go along, but it's an interesting journey. And then we say a community usually centers around a small shopping mall, a major shop. And for instance, in Langa, Cape Town, we know it's the Boxer store. And that Boxer store can support at least 10 bikes. Just because people don't have vehicles. So they drive by taxi to the shop, they buy, but now they can't carry it. And they still need to do some other shopping. So the guys wait in a queue, and the next guy get the next delivery to deliver it at home of what has been shopped at the Boxer store. And then around it is the continuous, go and buy this for me, go and deliver that there, distribute the bread, distribute the milk, distribute the eggs, all of those type of activities. And then we established the hub quite close. And at the hub, we have the vehicles, anywhere between 10 and 30 vehicles that someone can rent on a WhatsApp. So basically, you're on a WhatsApp, you say, I want to rent a vehicle. It says where, you say there. I want to have it for 2 days or a week. And pay as you go or pay as you work, you then rent a vehicle. So that if someone is sick, the burden is not on them during that week to repay for a vehicle when they cannot work. And that is the model of how we will roll it out. And then we say we create the ecosystem. So there's a lot of other delivery apps and activities that is growing. So apart from the individualized deliveries, they also connect to different kinds of delivery apps that's specific to the township environment. And we provide the drivers with a bike that's always working. They can select the shifts that they want to work. It's roughly about $25 for 5 shifts. So it's very affordable, and they know what their income is, and they only pay when they work. So that's our model. Now, I have a few questions, and I want us to ponder these questions and engage. Should African and European cargo bikes differ from each other? Should they be different? So I'll just leave that and we can come back to the question. Should lighter vehicles be more expensive? Normally we say that's a light carbon fiber bicycle and it costs 3 times the price of equivalent aluminium bicycle. But should it be the case? Should sophistication of design make a product more expensive and exclusive? Is carbon fiber affordable? Maybe I want to ask that question. By range of hands, who thinks carbon fiber is affordable? Okay. No. What's more expensive? 50 kilograms of carbon fiber or 300 kilograms of reworked steel or aluminium? Now you see, carbon, yes, perceived expensive, but if you only use 50 kilograms and you have to rework 300 kilograms of steel, maybe carbon fiber is more expensive still. Next question is batteries per kilogram much more expensive than carbon per kilogram? And suddenly that happens. Carbon here, cost of batteries there. So what if you can halve the batteries on your vehicle by using lighter material like carbon fiber? Is carbon fiber still expensive? In our view, it's not. Because you have to do the balance of all the effects of wear and tear, battery, motor size, componentry, etc., etc. And then also the life cycle. How much energy do you use to move goods? Should recycled materials and natural fibers increase the price? That's also an interesting question. I don't necessarily have the answer to that, and I know it's volumes and all of that. But I think what I'm after is to say, just because you're doing something that is better, should you ask the premium? Or should you democratize it? Should you just say, this is the price, we don't just ask a premium for it? Is composite fiber easier to learn for fabrication than steel and aluminium? Many people should say no. What's interesting in our environment, and maybe it's unique to our environment, we have a yacht building industry. But we also found for ourselves that it's much easier for us to work with carbon and teach people or with composites to manufacture than it's to go through the whole process of aluminium, TIG welding and machining and lathe work and CNC and programming and all of that. Because if you have the tooling and you have the process, it's actually easier. That's just what we found. And we can get repeatable products easier out of the door than what we would have had if we have to go TIG welding, aluminium, steel and all of that. And that's for our environment. Is composite manufacturing more capital intensive or less capital intensive? That's also a very, very interesting question to ponder. Because at first glance, if you say, we are making composite products, it almost sounds like, holy grail. And our mind is, if I have the tooling, I don't need the CNC machine, I don't need lathes, I don't need millings, I don't need a TIG welder, all of that I don't need. It's all in my tool and a layup of the material. So that is some questions, and I'm going to end by that. And maybe let's go back to that slide. And if you have questions and want to just ask me a few things of our journey. So this is our journey of how we came to the products that we have. Is to say, we have to take the human element into consideration of where we at in terms of manufacturing. We need to take the human consideration into effect of where we're going to roll out and what's the cost of our products needs to be, who's going to ride it. And all of that has formed the form factor and the use case of what we have for our vehicles. Thank you.
You are asking us lots of questions. Super interesting. You're planting seeds there. It's growing. It's growing. If you look at the questions yourself, what keeps you awake at night? What's the most urgent question for you?
Most urgent question for me is we need to employ our youth. That is the most, if we do not employ the youth of, which is basically our society of tomorrow, it's the biggest hurdle against democracy.
Yeah. And for the people who missed that slide, who are just putting in, it was 60%? 65?
62%.
62% of the youth. Yeah. So that's a lot.
Unemployed.
And how do you create jobs for them? What does STROOM do for them?
It's if you look in a community. So first of all, that we're saying is, and that's probably one of the things that also kept me awake at night, is okay. So we want to create the jobs for youth, all right, and we want cargo bikes to employ cargo bikes. So normally what we want to do is, normally what happens is, okay, let's put it down in the city center and we connect with the major apps that's available, and then we take the people from their communities and they have to come to another place and do the services. And we just said no. We said the community itself is currently paying for deliveries, directly and indirectly. Getting on a taxi, driving somewhere, having all the inconveniences of not having a lot of packages, paying double because you have packages to go. So it's happening there. It looks like chaos, but it's happening. So for us, we just said, no, we are going there. Our bikes is going there. The services is happening there for us, living in a city and maybe more comfortable. We don't understand it. It looks like chaos. But it's not. There's systems and things that is working there. So we're going there and we put our vehicles there, and then the youth gets employed by their community to deliver the service that the community would have in any case paid for taxi fares and all these kinds of things. And then the money stays in the community. And the people that does the deliveries, they don't have to pay, because that's another thing, 30 to 40% of income is spent by South Africans to get to work in a city and go back home. Now they are where their community is, that's where they work.
And how is the youth reacting on the vehicles of STROOM? How is the youth reacting on the vehicles of STROOM? Because it's quite something if you see it driving on the road.
Yeah, it is. So what we found is that identity is a very important thing. Work association creates a big form of identity, belonging. So a person on a STROOM bike is somebody. He's suddenly somebody. Everybody goes like, and they have a different way of expressing it. But they are something. It's almost like wearing branded clothing. When they're on a STROOM bike, they are the guy that does the deliveries. They're the guy that's going somewhere. They are the guy that's interacting with the community.
Yeah.
And so the identity, it provides a massive form of identity, and also obviously the income that comes with it.
Cool. And you were also talking about patterns, and that you looked into patterns.
Yeah.
What patterns did you discover in communities?
In communities, yes, there's a lot. I think the first, I want to see what I can highlight. It is that the community already has some form, they're trying to do deliveries. And they are sorting themselves out. But it's inefficient. If you can bring something in that can help them do that, they organize amongst themselves. Yeah. They know, if I phone Johnny, I can tell him, come and pick up. I trust him because he stays 3 streets down the road. And I can just give him my money. He'll go to the shop and buy the stuff for me and come back. And that's another thing that's happening. It's a cash society many times. Yeah. People literally say, Johnny, come here. He comes there. They give him a few $100. He goes and do the shopping, bring back the change, and they pay him for his service.
Yeah.
It's an
For me,
interesting thing.
really, this is for me the key insight of your presentation,
Yeah.
that you can embrace the chaos
Yeah.
and that it will organize itself.
Yeah.
And I think from a European perspective, we can learn a lot from that. Are there other lessons that we can learn from the business in South Africa?
I think the key thing in terms of product is that we can make sophisticated products, but it doesn't have to cost a massive amount of money. And we can actually make a product that is, I won't say comparable to any place in the world, but we can still use it for ourselves.
Yeah.
It's still usable, it's still cost effective, and available for the communities.
Yeah, cool. I have many more questions, but I would like to give the audience to give you the opportunities to raise your hand. So if you have a question, please feel free to raise your hand and I will come to you with a microphone. I see you, I come to you. Who are you? What's your background?
Thanks. I'm Richard from Oxford in the UK, where we do have delivery problems. I'm interested in how you pump-started the process. So in that very first setting up a depot with its 10 or so bikes, how did you sort of get people to start to come in and hire them? And how did you make sure that they didn't just take them away?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good question,
So
thank you.
it's and that's probably a pattern or identification of self-organization that works. Is you're in the community, and the community in a radius knows each other more than I think we in a city environment or a formal environment know each other. They walk the streets and they know each other. So it's not like Johnny that's down the street can take the bike and disappear. We had one bike that got stolen, and it took 24 hours to get it back. It's someone that took a bike, drove somewhere that they should not, didn't lock it, and someone else took it. And I went on WhatsApp, and it was recovered in 24 hours.
But coming back to this, the starting point of the very first time, how did you tell people that they could hire these bikes? And just perhaps if you describe an anecdote or two about how it picked up. Because I can see that once it starts, the word gets around and suddenly...
Yeah.
But it's that initial thing.
Yeah. But there is what we call community champions. A community champion is like a hero in his community. And for instance, in Langa, we have Langa Bicycle Hub. And Langa Bicycle Hub is some association of a pump track for BMX, and they teach people to learn to cycle and. So you approach that organization, you say, listen, we want to do a hub here in Langa. Can we set it up here? So that's one mechanism that one can do it. The other mechanism was we got another community champion from Soweto that is called Shave Bike. And they were just so keen to get this going. So then what you do is you probe it. You give them 1 bike, 2 bikes, 3, 5 bikes, and you see what happens. It's again, you throw the spaghetti. Does it stick? Oh, it sticks at Shave Bike. Okay, now we know we have a depot. And then you know there's 3 million people in Soweto.
Yeah.
So it's one place, one spaghetti sticks. You see what emerges, then you know, okay, why not 2 or 3 or 4 or 5?
Yeah.
So that's how we did it, community heroes. That's the key, I would say, to get it jump-started and grow.
Speaking about the spaghetti metaphor, is there a project that you throw through the wall, that you tried out, and which was a failure? Because now it's all a success story about successful communities. But was there one particular project that was a failure in the end? And what can we learn from that?
That one slide that I showed, let me just go back to it.
Back to the pictures.
Back to the pictures. I'm going to go back. From outside, all of that was failures. If you strictly look at it, you'll go, you built something, but you didn't build this, It's not in production anymore. Or you didn't. You need to put probes in the ground and test. You know, it's like digging for gold. You need to do a probe and pull it out and see what's the density and pull it out and see what it... You have to do that if that's part of the chaotic process. If you're not willing to say, I'm quickly there, quickly making errors, quickly changing, quickly adopting, it's actually, that's a more dangerous place. You must be measured and knowing that this is my funds, this is the amount of what I can do, and you tackle it.
Yes, so we still have a few minutes left. Can we zoom in on the pictures a little bit more? And can you explain, because this is all experimenting, please stand here, because otherwise the camera cannot see us anymore. But can you point out maybe the biggest failure and the biggest success? And why was that?
Is this a laser? Yeah. Does it work here? Okay, I'm just going to stand this side. For instance, let me start by this. We wanted to build a bike for riding kiddies around. We just quickly realized that's not our market, so we scrapped that. We had these vehicles operating and did very, very well in township deliveries. But what we did find with it, it was quite complex to make. It's many parts. And aluminium is a very difficult material to work with. It's prone to cracking. So we had to sort out quite a bit of cracking on the frames. So that has been sorted out, but since then we've now evolved to the composites. We have learned that you have to do many, many presentations, including what you're doing here, to get funding and support. Yeah. And then we have learned that, you have to train people. You know, training is super important. You learn how to ride a vehicle. You learn how to use the vehicle correctly. And that's where training is so important. Yeah.
What's the most successful material that you're working the most now on?
We are going pure epoxy carbon fiber.
Okay.
That's what we're doing.
Interesting. We can talk many longer about the subject, but we have to round it up.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your presentation and for the examples from your community from South Africa. Yeah. And thanks for visiting. Give me an applause. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.